Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whenever it is for you. For me, it is just past midnight on January the 2nd, which makes this New Year's Day for most of everybody. And this is our New Year's Day Q&A. So welcome. I see the peeps are starting to come in. Hey, guys. The retired one is here. Hey, Sharon Davies. Hey, Nightshade. Hey, PT. How's everybody doing? GG, JJ, hey Darlene, hey Mel, hey Michael. How is everybody tonight? So I can start just as people are coming in. Let's give a big shout out and a big thank you to the sponsors of this week's lives, the board of directors, Ballerina Nightshade, Ballerina Dark Irish, Arn and Chris Carter, as well as my guys in San Diego, the San Diego team, Dan Ballard and Bobby. I want to thank all those guys for all that they do for this channel. And if you see them around, give them a thank you. Happy New Year, Sixth Beatle. There was a sixth Beatle? Hey, RDG. Hey, Richard Prexis. Odin is here. The All-Father. How you doing, Odin? Hey, Steve B. Hey, Bakhmut. Happy New Year, Melinda. Happy New Year, RDG. Happy New Year, everybody. Last night, I don't know who was sending gifts last night, but the total gifts were like $9. I haven't seen gifts over $1 in months and months and months. That was a nice surprise last night, I must say. Hello, Bjorn in Sweden. Hey, Eli. How's everybody doing tonight? Hey, PH. The peeps are coming in. Hey, Nicola Jones. Maria Holm, how do you do? Thomas Johnson. A lot of Swedes in tonight. Hey, Dark Irish. Hey, Sarah. Hey, Paul. How is everybody tonight? So today is 1043 of Vladimir Putin's war of aggression against the people of Ukraine. Hey, Robert Chapman. And it is New Year's Day. And on this day, we can reflect on 25 years of Vladimir Putin's rule. Nightshade, that can't really be right because the Oreshnik is truck launched. So it doesn't have a launch space. It's a mobile launcher unit. I did not hear about anything happening in New Orleans. Did we have another mass shooting in my home country? Hey, Dusty. Hero and Slava. So I'll take a look at, and it's a mass shooting, right? So, well, we're focused on Ukraine here. Oh, brother. There's going to be more of that in the United States. I mean, that's just all there is to it. Vladimir Putin's whole objective is for the United States to be torn apart by civil war. And his primary tool for that is Donald Trump. And he's winning. He's winning. Make no mistake. The reinstallment of Donald Trump into the White House is Vladimir Putin's greatest victory. He is this close to destabilizing the United States and therefore the world for his own unenlightened short-term self-interest. A Cybertruck full of fireworks went up in front of Trump's hotel in Vegas. Well, that sounds more like parody. As long as no one was injured, right? Hey, Vanetta. Hey, Lars. Hey, June. I didn't say it didn't happen. I just said I thought it was parody, right? It's a Cybertruck full of fireworks. I mean, if that's not a metaphor for Musk, I don't know what is. I'm okay, Eli. Yeah, but why? Why does one half of the country so absolutely believe that the other half is out to destroy it when clearly they are not? No, don't block Classy, not Trashy. That was a perfectly reasonable thing to say. I mean, it wasn't a perfectly reasonable thing to say, but for all those deluded by Russian propaganda and Trump, then yeah, it's a reasonable thing to say. I hear it from my family. It's obscene, but they believe it. The progressives gave you a 5-day work week, Social Security. I mean, and yet the working people of this country, of the United States, continue to view themselves as just temporarily embarrassed millionaires. Any day now, they're going to be part of the wealthy, rich class. They're not doomed to be workers for the rest of their life. It's nonsense. Nonsense of the worst sort. And so they vote for tax breaks for the wealthiest people, gutting the very programs that they depend on in their lives. It's ridiculous and obscene and self-destructive. And it is very much a worldview perpetrated by Russian disinformation poured into our information space, and low information users believing it. It's outrageous. You talk to a Trump supporter, he'll tell you, even veterans, right? Those Trump supporters, they'll tell you, oh, thank God for Donald Trump and Veterans Choice. Thank God Donald Trump got us Veterans Choice and we're not dependent on the VA anymore, right? We can go to our own doctors and the VA will pay for it. No, that was passed in 2014 when Barack Obama was president. Trump wants to take it away. And yet they will swear up and down that he's the one that gave it to them. Native Lands Clothing Company asks the big question. That is the big question, isn't it? Now, look, if you want to listen to the Russians say they don't have any idea why Biden and Harris returned to the White House. It didn't have anything to do with them. This was just normal reshuffling of diplomats in America. That's all it was, just the normal reshuffling of diplomats. Had nothing to do with Biden, had nothing to do with Harris going back to the White House. And maybe that's true. Maybe it's just a coincidence that a plane from St. Petersburg, when no flights from Russia are permitted to the United States, a plane from St. Petersburg decided to shuffle the diplomats around on Christmas Day and flew first to New York, then to D.C., and then back turning its transponder off about a third of the time it was in the air. That is also very interesting. And that while this happened, right now, of course, it's important to point out that for the Russians, it's not Christmas. Christmas isn't for another week. But still, in the United States, but still in the United States, it's Christmas, right? Like, why would you not have gone home before Christmas when everything stops all around you? I don't know, PT. Well, Bobby, it's very interesting because it's a highly unusual situation, right? You have a plane that we know flew to Moscow, then from Moscow to Petersburg, from Petersburg to New York to DC, did it on Christmas Day, and that Biden and Harris both canceled their plans and ran back to the White House that day. Why? Who were they meeting with? Some high-level Russian official? Because only a high-level Russian official would be in that plane. That was an IL-96. So only a high-level Russian official or a person of real importance in Russia would be in that plane. Now, who was it? And people are making suggestions in the comments, Lavrov, Medvedev, blah, 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 blah. For my money, if in fact this was not what the Russians say, if it wasn't just them transferring diplomats, if there were meetings with Biden and Harris, then that person is probably somebody we don't know. We wouldn't know. Somebody in an important position, but a low exposure position inside the Kremlin, or a friend of Putin's, an oligarch with some pull, somebody who you wouldn't recognize in the street and who wouldn't be missed from public life in Moscow or Petersburg. A messenger, exactly. A messenger of the dear leader. Or his opposition, maybe. We don't know. And so speculation is pointless. I did do a video where I speculated, and I said in the video, I said, no one should listen to me. I'm just, projecting my most optimistic scenarios for what this could be. But there's no way that it's any of it, right? So my guess is that if there was the meeting, which I think there probably was, I don't know. I mean, there's this sudden cancel of Christmas plans, return to the White House, mysterious Russian plane, and then 3 business days later, you have brand new sanctions against Russia and Iran for election interference. That seems very interesting to me. Right? Now, Dusty says, now here's a perfectly reasonable thing, right? Gazprom higher-ups asking the USA to stop Ukraine from shutting down the gas transit lines through Ukraine. And it looks like they're trying to shut down the oil transit line through Belarus because they hit it with Peklo missiles yesterday. So was it possible that it was Gazprom, just business people, big money business people, but business people making a plea? It's not impossible. It's not impossible. I think it's unlikely, though. I think it's unlikely because I don't think that Biden would have canceled his Christmas plans, nor Harris, to meet with the executives of a state-run business of the enemy. That I don't see happening. Right? They can come next Tuesday or whatever. I don't. No, it would have to be something else. And that gas flow is stopped. So last night at midnight, 2 things happened. Now, again, I'm going to go into my optimism, my stupid, hopeless American naivete and optimism and deep faith in the Ukrainian people when I say the following. Last night at midnight, two important things happened. One, the gas to Europe was shut off. No more pipeline gas to Europe from Russia. Boom. The other thing that happened, as I understand it, last night, just moments after the clock ticked to midnight, is that Ukrainian multi-launch rocket systems up and down the front started unloading on the Russians, just pummeling Russian positions all up and down the line for hours after midnight last night. Some of that ammo has clearly gotten to the front that Joe Biden has been promising. Now, I am a hopeless optimist. And I have to tell you, increasingly, I hear reports that make me feel like the momentum is changing. The Ukrainians are gaining ground in Kursk again. The Ukrainians are gaining ground and retaking positions around Chasiv Yar. The Ukrainians have pushed the Russians back from Kupiansk, where they were advancing. There have been more command and control decapitation strikes in the last 10 days than I think there have been in the last 10 months. It's just every oblast you look at, right now there's a bunker in Lvov burning. That contained what was left of the 810th Marine Brigade's command staff. Oh, I think that there's not any way that plane flew from St. Petersburg to New York without Putin knowing about it. Arn, I hate to say those words. I don't want to say those words because we've been so badly disappointed. But it's not impossible that the tide is changing. Ukraine is expanding. Ukraine, I love that. Ukraine is expanding, yes. Hey, Pugamone. Yeah, PT, that's another thing, right? Like you think about it, if you want to advance, if you want to drive your enemy out, what do you have to do? First, you make them hungry. You hit the logistics, right? So they don't have ammo, they don't have food. It's very hard to fight a war with no ammo and no food. And the Ukrainians have been pounding logistics, pounding them. I think you mean Peskov, Asso. But we don't know. So they've been pounding the shit out of logistics. So now the already demoralized Russians whose nerves are frayed at the front are more hungry, lacking water, lacking ammunition, lacking fuel for vehicles, etc. Right? That's me, Kevin. That's why everybody tunes in every night to hear my lies, my stupidity and my lies, because these people are all fools. Anyway. Hey, Roy McDaniels. Weibo's laughing. I'm glad somebody's laughing. Somebody out there found that amusing. Good. Anyway. Thank you, Native Lands Clothing Company. So logistics have been pounded. Then command and control has been decapitated in Kherson, in Zaporizhia, in Luhansk, in Donetsk, and now in Kursk. Right, Dark Irish. That's how I would describe you, as a sheep. More like a goat. More like a goat that got into a bunch of amphetamines. Meh, meh, meh. Thanks, Subway Green. So, okay, hitting logistics, hitting command and control, hitting critical and strategic reserves of ammunition and oil in the rear. Thanks, Donald. That's bad. Nice, PT. That's bad. And then last night, unloading those MLRS just up and down the line. From what I understand, it went for hours. Mutton do that. It went for hours. Now, can you imagine? Now again, I keep saying this, and it's not going to happen. This is not how this is going to play out. It's just a dumb idea that I have in my head. And even if they did it, it probably wouldn't work. But just to get it out of my system, I'll say it out loud again. No one should believe it. No one should think that this is what's going to happen. It's just a dumb idea that I have. But just suppose that with all those hundreds of thousands of artillery shells, the Ukrainians started outshooting the Russians 3-1. Just 3-1. Used 100 days worth of shells in 30 days. What kind of psychological impact would that have on the front line? I think it would be devastating. Now, that doesn't mean you'd get a breakthrough. It doesn't mean the lines would break even. And it's a big risk because you just used 100 days worth of shells in 30 days. But the payoff, demoralizing, I think that's the least of it, Dust Bunny. Something like that could drive the army into a rout. They're cold, they're wet, they're miserable, they're hungry. And now they don't even have to advance forward to be blown to smithereens. They're being blown to smithereens just sitting in their bunkers. The Russians, for their part, they try to blast too. Dark Irish, right? You might have seen it on the news. This has gotten coverage, pardon me. This has gotten coverage. Last night's drone attack was 111 drones, which is a weird number. But anyway, it was 111 drones. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I'd have to look. If you count the two that were returned to Belarus, returned to sender, it's 100% interception rate. It's 100% interception rate. Yeah. You know, everybody keeps saying, oh, well, now that the Russians are out of Syria, they're going to send those Russians to the front line. That's going to be bad for the Ukrainians, all those new Russians fresh from Syria showing up. Bullshit. Bullshit. Here's why. Those are the Russians that ran. First of all, there aren't that many of them, right? A couple thousand. Second thing is, in Syria, they ran. The reason they got out of there is because they ran away. You're going to put a couple thousand guys who run away at the front line in Ukraine where everybody wants to run away, but they're afraid. And now you have a bunch of guys that show up and say, hey, it's okay to run away. That's how I got out of Syria. I mean, best thing that could happen, in my opinion, would be to try to put those guys on the front line. I stick them on the front and see what happens. They've already successfully run away once. Yeah. 2,000 is about 2 days worth of the meat grinder. You're right, Bobby. Right. Hey, Tony Takiri. How you doing, Tone? Everybody, Tony Takiri from Fast Angels. Tony runs supplies out to the front. Somebody asked him to drive some tanks out there recently, didn't they, Tone? Hey, Daryl Roberts. So I see Tony in Kyiv once in a while. Hey, peeps. Hey, Tone. So Putin's New Year's Eve speech last night. Now, if you remember, last year's New Year's Eve speech was AI generated. Happy New Year, Daryl. Last year's New Year's Eve speech was almost certainly AI. This year, it looked like it was him or one of his doubles, whatever. And it was an astonishingly self-deluded, rambling nightmare of bullshit. Talking about all the I mean, really, like your army is decimated, your stockpiles are gone, you're isolated politically in the world. You're shooting down civilian planes because your AA guys are so trigger happy. They're shooting at everything. You've got unbelievable wage inflation, spiral pressures, manpower shortages, a brittle economy that's on the verge of collapse, that's absolutely dependent for its survival on the Chinese, who any day could decide they're done with you, cut off their trading relationship, and invade. There's a viral video going around China right now that says we should take back eastern Siberia. Vladivostok used to be a Chinese city, North Manchuria, all the way up to the Lake Baikal, which, if I'm not mistaken, is the largest freshwater lake in the world. I think it's got more fresh water in it than the Great Lakes, even. But somebody would have to fact check me on that. But anyway, all the way up to Lake Baikal. Well, Eugene, I don't think there's going to be any stopping them when the time is right. When they think they can march in there without resistance, they are going to march in there. So right now, the F-16s are used only really, to the best of my knowledge, only for defense. To the best of my knowledge. Hey, Michael Boucher. For all the Patreon guys, I did take the morning off. There was no news we are waking up to this morning. I was up and down last night. It was loud here in Kyiv. We had a drone come down in the neighborhood. And I didn't get much sleep last night. So this morning, I just was not up to it. And with it being the first of the year, I decided to blow it off is what I did. For those who don't know, I do a morning segment for the Patreon folks called News We Are Waking Up To. Oh, June, thanks. It does, right? I thought it did. Does it have the only extant species of freshwater dolphin too? Is that a thing? Would you mind, since you're doing it? I think they have the only extant species of freshwater dolphin. Or seal. Maybe it's seals. Because I'm thinking the pink dolphins of the Amazon, they're freshwater. So it can't be the only freshwater dolphin species. I don't follow football myself. The Baikal seal, the only freshwater seal, right? That's what it is. Yeah. Thanks, June. Pakistan has freshwater dolphins too. Oh, cool. The lake is natural, John. You're thinking of the Caspian, Sammy. The Caspian Sea is in trouble. Although I think it recovered somewhat in the last couple years, but it's a problem. Finland has freshwater seals too, so it's not the only freshwater seals. Okay. As I understand the geology of Lake Baikal, It's a naturally occurring lake. It's on a tectonic rift. And so the tectonic plates are pulling apart there. Magma's boiling up from under the crust of the earth, and it's pushing the continental plates, and they're growing much like the trench in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, if I'm not mistaken. So it's not a man-made lake. It's not a dam. It's a naturally occurring body of water. Hey, Sacramento. The best is yet to come the day you're mine. A Russian Baikal shotgun. Interesting. What do you use it for, Arn? Birds? The Aral Sea is nearly gone at this stage. I don't know anything about the Aral Sea. Mariana Trench is the Pacific. For hair. You got to be careful where you shoot that hair. It'll make a mess of him. It's funny. It's just funny, Arn, right? The things we remember. Like, I can remember as a kid, I don't know, 9, 10 years old, the first rabbit I ever shot, I was far too close to. I had a shotgun, and there was nothing left of the poor thing. So there's an artistry and a skill to everything. This notion of unskilled labor is nonsense. You know, anybody who's ever worked a grill at McDonald's knows there's no such thing as unskilled labor. Or the register with all those buttons. Dove hunting. Same thing, Cheyenne, same thing. I used to shoot pheasant, this is not even a joke, out of my bedroom window. We don't have pheasant natively in Pennsylvania. The state releases them for hunting. And there was a state park near us, and they used to leave the park and come over our way. And sometimes I would see one just walking across in front of my office window. I would keep a shotgun right there, open the window, and just shoot the thing. We ate a lot of pheasant on my farm. Pheasant comes from China. Yes, it does. Now, they've got them here in Ukraine. Holy cow, I've never seen pheasant. I've never seen so many pheasant out in the wild as I have here in Ukraine. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So Putin was talking a lot of nonsense yesterday about all of his accomplishments and ignoring all of his failures. Right, Dive Hard? That is the worst. That's why you got to shoot him in the head. Oh, God, I hope the AI doesn't hear this. Oh, God, we're going to get in trouble now. We can't even talk about hunting pheasant. They just stare at the cars. Oh, Tony. Hey, cool. Okay. So again, there's no winter offensive coming. We're going to be very lucky if the Ukrainians can hold the line where they're at. We will be very lucky if that's what happens. "10 minutes before opening season. Ricky, were you in Pennsylvania? That sounds like Pennsylvania game wardens." Uh, oh, Pennsylvania game wardens are the worst. The biggest bullies, the most corrupt individuals. I've never been in Vermont, Michael. Dixon, California. The dogs went nuts and the birds were flying. 10 minutes before the start of the season. Ugh. 10 minutes. Oh, Matty, you're a vegan. Well, that is a choice. But I don't know. Pork chops taste good. Bacon tastes good. I like a steak. Oh, my chicken parm came out so good, everybody. I made up, I think altogether it was like 6 kilos of chicken cutlet. I just breaded them, fried them, threw them in the freezer. I threw the sauce in the freezer. And for the next month, every week, once a week, I can have chicken parmesan. And life is going to be nice. I do like Montreal. Larry Kaufman, where are you that you can't get a great steak and a baked potato? Thanks, cool. Thoughts on 11/7 Treasury raid on Alfie Oaks and Treasury sanctions? I don't know enough about it, Native Lands. I only just saw it. I tried to read it, but those documents are so dense and I was distracted by some other things. So I don't know enough about it to comment, honestly. Just that it's more sanctions on specific individuals in Iran and in Russia, and it's all about election interference. I did not get to any part of the document that specified the interference. I don't know that the document does, but so I can't say. It would all be guesswork and nonsense. An enforced vegetarian day. Why is it enforced, Dive Hard? You got some kind of New Year's Day like fasting schedule or something? Dusty, I can tell you right now the power's been on here without interruption for 72 hours at least, maybe longer. I don't have any pets here in Kyiv, no. Ukraine just got a new drone, composite materials and silent, undetectable by EW systems. Undetectable by EW systems. Are you thinking of the fiber optic ones? In Albuquerque. Ah, gotcha. Albuquerque. I was in Albuquerque not long before I came to Ukraine. I don't remember going out for a steak in Albuquerque. I was only there a couple days. What are your thoughts on the press release? Well, look, you can't ask these very specific comments. You pin me into a corner too much with a comment like that. I mean, how can I respond to what are your thoughts on the press release? What press release? What are you talking about? She makes me do it. My favorite words. Arn, it really is. When you think of how they target the energy infrastructure here, it is so impressive the way that the Ukrainians keep the lights on. I mean, 80% of the thermal power plants are destroyed in this country. And yet somehow, at least here in Kyiv, the power stays on. Here in my luxury apartment. Hey, Chris Carter. There's Chris Carter. At the start of the live, I had thanked our sponsors for the week. The board of directors, Ballerina, Fitz, Chris Carter, Arn, and my guys in San Diego, Dan Ballard and Bobby. All those guys make significant contributions to this channel, and we are extremely grateful. Thank you, gentlemen. Everybody thank the board of directors, please. And of course, big thank you to my moderator team, the best moderators on the Tickety Talk. Cheyenne, Vanetta, PTJ, and Travis. Ricky, I never rode dirt bikes. Every single person in my neighborhood had a dirt bike except me. That was when I started to realize that we were poor and that we lived in a place where people weren't, which is not a great way to grow up. Where to find me if TikTok gets banned? That is a great question. Hey, Jeff. Where to find me if TikTok gets banned? I'm already on YouTube, right? Like everything that I post here gets posted on YouTube. Things get posted on YouTube that do not get posted here. The News We Are Waking Up To segment for my Patreon supporters, I usually post that about 12 hours later on YouTube. You can get a free Patreon account, join my Patreon. Or if you can kick me $5 a month, join the Patreon at the shark level and help keep me in Ukraine doing this. Only distribution would be banned, not the service. I'm not sure what that means. Yeah, I'm in all those places. I'm on Blue Sky, Threads, even X these days a little bit. Native Lands Clothing Company. I've never seen you here before. Where are you from? I'm curious. Are you in the, I assume you're in the US, although you could be in Canada, I suppose. I am hoping I have a great native poncho. It's this black and white poncho that I hope is going to be here soon. I would really like to have it for winter. Trump wants Canada to be the US. It's so stupid. I mean, it's insane. It's like the pronouncements of a 19th century emperor. We have no borders. Canada, we will take you as our 51st state. You are not a sovereign nation whose boundaries we respect under the UN Charter. You're not even a real country. You're just a loft apartment above a great party, and we're moving in. And as for you, Mexico, you do all our work cheap, so we're going to absorb you too and use your people as slaves. Oh, and we'll take Greenland too, by the way, because that helps out my buddy Vlad if we're there. No, Odin, I arrived in Ukraine on February 24th, 2023, 1 year after the war began. And that's the worst part, common sense in crazy times. If we did take over Canada, it would be the end of universal health care for the Canadians, and instead of the beginning of it for us. Do you think the car explosion Trump through an accident? Truth hurts. I don't know what any of that means. None of that means anything to me. Good night, V. V's up late. She's on the East Coast this week. And this is just too late for her. Aw, V. Good night. Lullaby and good night. Can Ukraine design stealth missiles that acts strictly submarine? Well, I don't know. I don't have any idea. Of course Denmark's not giving up Greenland. Why would they? Why should they? Ugh. Yeah, seriously, Arn. Addressing the failures in our educational system would be the first thing we should really be focused on. Instead, who did Trump put in charge of it the last time? Somebody who wanted to destroy the Department of Education. Who has he put in charge of it this time? Someone who wants to destroy the Department of Education. They think that learning should only be for people with money who can afford to pay for learning. Ugh. If Canada built a wall, I wouldn't blame them. Northern California, nice. Oh yeah, let's not forget Putin can't get his ships through the Panama Canal, so he wants Donnie to take care of that for him too. I mean, every one of these things is somehow related to Russia's interests, not ours. Trey, I don't know either, pal. I don't know how we failed that test either. I mean, I would have bet American money that guy was done. But somehow the Biden administration, in its weakness, it had 4 years to put that son of a bitch behind bars, and it couldn't do it. When he's guilty. A jury of his peers found him guilty on 34 felony counts. And they couldn't get that done before the end of primary season? Are you kidding me? Insanity. Oh, we don't want the appearance of a political persecution. Get the fuck out of here. T-Bar guy, if you're saying that seriously, that Canada will defend its border with hockey sticks and slingshots, you don't know much about the Canadian military. You should read a little history of the Canadian military and what they're capable of. Google Canada war crimes. I mean, it's almost like they think the Geneva Convention is a checklist or a to-do list rather than a list of forbidden activities. Behind the Geneva suggestions, exactly. Yeah, Bobby, or if he hadn't dropped out, maybe he'd have won the election. I don't know. Nobody's seceding. The United States is not breaking up. That is a fever dream of the Russians because they know that Russia is falling apart. That's what it is. Oh, I'm not smarter than Musk. I just know that Musk is not as smart as most people give him credit for. Who was it? Somebody in the live mentioned that they had a Tesla and they had a bumper sticker on it that said, I bought this before Musk wasn't cool. Oh, Canada's got everything, man. They definitely have their own special forces, and they are rough and ready, as Annabelle Harwell says quite correctly. Ah, you are Canadian. Well, then you can say that, certainly. For the Americans in the House who think you might be serious, I thought it was worth mentioning your history of war crimes. Why can't anyone get someone into Russia to independently inspect POW camps? Well, that's the job of the Red Cross, which I believe under the Foreign Agents Act has been banned in Russia. So, guys, it's 5 minutes to the top of the hour. Right, Larry? That's all it is. Musk had an eye for the innovative, and he bought companies that were innovating. He didn't create anything. He used the money from the mountain of gold he had from his parents, who exploited Africa and Africans for 100 years to make a great crime and a great fortune. Musk inherited it all. I don't know. I thought that Musk's family had a diamond mine, a gold mine, a copper mine, a silver mine, and one other mine. But then somebody corrected me and said, no, they were emerald brokers. And I've meant to look it up and see what his family really was. But regardless, the point is that they made their money but through the theft of African resources. That's who they are. They want a permanent underclass that they can always exploit to feed themselves. It's about the most un-American approach you can have to things. So it's just 5 to the top of the hour. So if any final questions, chat them in. Again, let me thank the sponsors of tonight's live, the board of directors, Ballerina, Fitz, Arn, Chris Carter, and my guys in San Diego, Bobby and Daniel Ballard. Oh, yeah, deep racists. I mean, deep supporters of apartheid, and making your money off the backs of others and exploiting natural resources of other people's countries to line your own pockets and support a systemically racist system that kept more than half, 90% of the population enslaved to the other. My Patreon is doing good. I'm up to 90 paid Patreon subscribers, and I'm up to $1,400 a month in income. Now, if $1,400 a month in income does not sound like a lot to you, it's because it's not. So if anybody can join the Patreon and kick me $5 a month, it really does make a difference. It really does make a difference. I mean, it's the collective support of the Patreon people and the board of directors and some other people that make all of this possible. Why can't we get any kind of inspection of Russian POW camps? Again, Michael, I believe it's because the Red Cross, who's the international agency that does that, is banned under the Foreign Agents Act inside of Russia. If I am not mistaken, that is the reason. Big thanks to the moderator team, Cheyenne, Vanetta, PTJ, and Travis. To Nightshade, who has the Peters Peeps group, and Lars, who has the Discord server and the Alexievich archive. Thanks for all you guys do. The board of directors is sponsoring this week's lives, all this week. And then next week we got Little Red Sunflower and Mrs. Toad. So only 2 of next week's lives have sponsors. If you would like to sponsor a live, the PayPal is in the description. Just send $50 to that address or more. Feel free to send more if you can. But under no circumstances should anybody send me money if it affects your charitable giving to Ukraine. If you only have $5 a month to give, by all means, give it to Ukraine and get a free Patreon account. If you can give Ukraine $5 a month and me $5 a month, that would be great. Any other questions, comments, points of observation, or personal need? Anything from anybody about anything? Is anybody on the live tonight that's in Kyiv? Happy New Year, everyone. Woohoo! Happy New Year. Thank you, Weibo. Happy New Year, pal. Happy New Year, Dive Hard. Thanks, Arn. I appreciate it. I wish you could send me some moose steaks. I'd like to try my hand at making some moose. I've never had moose. And I've eaten all kinds of things. What was the confiscated ship worth? Not the cargo. Is that what the question is? Not the cargo. Okay. So, Smokey, as I understand it, the ship is good only for scrap. It should be scrapped. It should have been scrapped. It will be scrapped. The scrap value is maybe 10 million US. The cargo was 35,000 tons of unleaded gasoline, which I'm seeing different estimates of its value, anywhere from 20 million US to 27 million US. So I don't know who that is. Kansas Steve, maybe some other people here know him. But Kansas Steve is saying, say a prayer for Roman. He just enlisted in the Ukrainian military. He must be a TikToker who is a Ukrainian. Well, Chef Deb, what I have found about most hunted game is it's not just a question of preparation. It's a question of handling in the field. If that game is not almost immediately field dressed properly and its temperature brought down, you get that gamey taste. So it's important that all game be field dressed immediately and handled properly and then prepared properly as well. And if you do that, I mean, I'll tell you, we used to hunt so much deer on my property that I didn't have to buy red meat for like 10 years. When I returned to the grocery store and started buying red meat again, I was shocked. I had sticker shock for a week. Weibo is giving recommendations for aging your meat properly. Roman is in Lviv. He has coordinated all of our aid for the last 2 years. Oh, interesting. So who's going to coordinate it now, Steve? Right, Chef Deb, a good marinade. That's what you want. Right, get it cooking before you put it in the oven. I'm with you. Oh, yeah, we used to make our own venison jerky all the time. Reindeer is my favorite. Nice. Yeah, we used to make venison jerky all the time. I had an African spices recipe, a teriyaki recipe, a traditional American recipe with Worcestershire sauce, and then a hot, spicy, like ghost pepper jerky. Oh, yeah, venison is the best. I had reindeer once. A buddy of mine used to work for Field and Stream, and he was on a reindeer hunt. Oh gosh, I forget where. Well, caribou. I guess in North America it's caribou, but they're the same. They're subspecies, right? They're both reindeer, and and he brought some back, and we had a cookout at his place, and that was good. He prepared that nicely. Possum is great. I love a possum pie. Not the only marsupial I've eaten. I will say that. Reindeer gazpacho. I don't know what that is, Arn. I don't see. Is that Kansas Steve? Is that your response to my question? Good question. Wash your sister's sauce. All right. Guys, it's 1 o'clock in the morning here. I'm going to call it a night. But I appreciate everybody hanging out. I sincerely wish everybody the very happiest of New Year's. Thank you, Native Lands. Thanks, Little Red. Thank you, Gen X. Aloha and Happy New Year's. Thanks, Riley. Night Chef Deb. Night Rocco. You too, Jedi. Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Norton. I am as safe as anybody in this country, Weibo. And happy to say it. Thanks, Freedom Doesn't Last. Good night, Bobby. Yeah, be careful, everybody. Be careful. All right, I'll talk to everybody tomorrow when we will be back with a proper night of news. Take care.